This is the Expect Miracles podcast. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Expect Miracles podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe, like, and leave us a nice review on iTunes or wherever else you can leave a review. It really helps boost the podcast and share our message. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Alex Lee. Dr. Alex is a chiropractor out of Hayward, California. He was a former D1 baseball player who was, I want to use the word, just crippled by low back pain. It got so bad to the point where he almost had to give the sport up. And thankfully, chiropractic was able to give Alex his life back, and so much so that he decided to become a chiropractor. And he also had an amazing experience in the clinic as a clinical doctor at Life West with concussions. He was a rugby player, came in the clinic one day with post-concussion syndrome, and luckily Dr. Alex was there to give him a specific upper cervical chiropractic adjustment. And a few days later, the rugby player came back and his concussion symptoms were gone. And it really changed the course of what Dr. Alex wanted to do within chiropractic. He's very passionate about healing concussions. And today we have a great episode. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Alex Lee. Today on the Expect Miracles podcast, we have an amazing guest, Dr. Alex Lee out of Hayward, California. Dr. Alex is fresh off of graduation. He is excited to get into practice and start healing people. And it's an honor to have him on the show today. Dr. Alex, how you doing?
Doing well. Sorry, I jumped the gun there during that beautiful intro.
No worries. Exciting times.
Exciting times. How's everything in Jersey?
It's good. Jersey it's opening up again. There's people eating at the restaurants. Just absolute craziness the last couple months, but it looks like things are returning to normal, which is good. What about California? How's it out there?
It's kind of county by county, to be honest. So I went camping with my girlfriend and a few friends from school about a month ago. So I think it was Memorial Day weekend. And we drove east in like an hour and a half east at the gas station. Like nobody was wearing masks. It was a big, like everybody inside was just normal. We were like, what is this? And then come back to the Bay and everybody's still wearing masks. It's mandatory. And now I think Governor Newsom just made it mandatory. Everybody, all of California has to wear masks if they go anywhere inside, which was already the lockdowns in our county. But, you know, to treat rural, small town California the same as you would treat San Francisco or LA is ridiculous.
Like in the height of the quarantine, how was it getting around San Francisco? Was it amazing? Was there a lot less traffic everywhere or no?
It was like playing Mario Kart on the, Toad Turnpike or whatever it was? You were just zipping through, man. It was pretty sweet.
Dude, everyone's like, I love California, but I can't take the traffic. So if you eliminate that, it's literally the best place on the planet.
Yeah, it's really not bad, but I'd like some of my freedoms back to be able to go out and just be able to go anywhere. So, but restaurants have pretty much all opened up in the past week. Yeah, everything's good. So practice is great. That's like, we're back at 100%. We're full hours. We're cruising. So, and people are really grateful that we're there. So that part's good.
Beautiful. So Dr. Alex, before we jump into a little bit about where you're from, why don't you tell the people what time it is over by you right now?
It is 5:43 a.m.
You wake up every weekday morning around 4:30?
4:30 is like if I have something to do at 5:30 that I can't be late for. And then I had problems with the AeroPress this morning, making my coffee, which was a non-negotiable for the morning. So that kind of set me back a little bit there too. But no, I mean, I'm up at 5. I've got this app called Alarmy, I think it's called, but it gets like a little bit louder every couple seconds. And then, so like if I don't turn it off in time, my girlfriend's like, dude, get up. And it kind of sucks starting the day, like almost panicked a little bit. Cause I'm like, if I don't get this like now, I'm kind of screwed. And then it makes you do a series of math problems. So you're like turning the brain, but then, yeah, I get going. I'll read, I'll do a little bit in the backyard here and get a workout in. So I don't have that hanging over my head the rest of the day.
How long have you been waking up that early for?
So I just started practice, 3 months ago. So yeah, I've kind of found that now that we're back at normal hours that you don't get anything else done in the day unless you get it done early on. And I've had streaks of getting up consistently early and getting things done. And you know, if you can get over the, I guess, wanting to fall asleep at 8 part at night, then it's really nice. But you got to get into a rhythm. And I think the toughest thing is when you're sleeping in on the weekends too. So like getting up at 5 is easy as long as you're not sleeping in till 9 on a weekend. catch up for it. So.
And do you feel yourself crashing at all during the day, or are you just getting up, doing your thing, and once you're done, you're good?
Yeah, we have 3 full days and 2 half days at the office, so that the half days kind of save me if I need to like take a nap or something someday. But no, I feel good, man. Like I think when you take on a big responsibility and you're just stoked to go to work every day, then you just kind of show up. So I mean, I went back to school at 27, so I knew that this was the majority of my classmates went there right out of undergrad, so 22, 23, and maybe didn't have like a firm reason why they were there, but wanted to kind of find along the way. Whereas I went to school with like a really clear picture in my head. And I wake up every day now and I'm just like, God, like I just went through 3.5 years of a really difficult program to wake up and do this every single day. And I get goosebumps thinking of that right now. Like I'm doing what I exactly want to be. And I know so many other people that probably aren't fortunate enough to have gone through all the steps and the necessary work to say that every day. And I was one of those people before going to school. So and it's cool to feel that way this early into practice, being an hourly rate associate. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Dr. Alex, let's jump into that a little bit. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Boston, just outside of Boston. So my grandfather was born in Hingham. So
nice. I got some good friends in Hingham, Massachusetts. And so what were you into growing up? You sports or?
Yeah, I played pretty much everything, but I mean, my screen name was A-Lee Baseball. That's still a couple of my emails, but baseball was honestly everything in my life until probably through college. I wanted to be a big leaguer just like everybody else, but we were 15 minutes from Fenway, so went to games there a lot. I was the bat boy for Boston College when I was in kindergarten and first grade. So, I mean, I remember going to spring training down with the Sox and meeting some of them, and because BC would always play them in a spring training game and just get stomped. But I mean, I was there picking up the bats, which was cool. But yeah, I played through high school, got offers to a handful of D1 schools, and ended up going to Wofford College in South Carolina. So I played for 4 years down there. Go Terriers. People know them now from the NCAA tournament from basketball. They were a 14 seed for probably like 5 years in a row. And they actually made it through I guess this is the last NCAA tournament they had because they didn't even have it this year. So the last March Madness, they made it to the second round for the first time, which was cool. And then I coached for 3 years after school. I ran 2 baseball facilities. So one was in Atlanta, one was in Austin. And then while I was living in Atlanta, I got under care with an intern at Lakeview who was, by the way, what are you drinking there? What is that?
I am drinking, you ever hear of Stumptown? They're out of Brooklyn. I don't know if they source their coffee only locally, but it's like unbelievable. I'm really impressed. I got it for the first time a couple days ago, and shout out to Stumptown Brewer Coffee because it's good.
I don't know if this is authorized, but this podcast is brought to you by Stumptown Brewery.
Unofficially.
Trying to get some bags thrown our way. No, but I was living in Atlanta and I was running this facility. I mean, I couldn't swing a bat and then walk normally for a few days. I had a pretty bad back injury my senior year and I didn't know what it was and kind of gave up on trying to figure it out. But
so you just pushed through it or did you stop playing?
Yeah, I actually had a freshman in the locker next to me tie my shoes before a couple games. Like it was rough, man. So I found out once I started school here that I have a spondy. Basically, if I was sitting in a chair, like during a lecture in school, I'd get up and then it would take probably 5 minutes to go from like a flex position, like to upright with all my weight on the ground. So I knew something was wrong, but it was my senior year and I was like, I gotta just make it to May and like finish up. But I mean, looking back, as brutal as that was and as like debilitating as it was the best thing that ever happened because it led me to find chiropractic and seek out through experience what actually worked. So definitely got healed all the way.
Was this when you were running your baseball facilities that you found a chiropractor to help you out?
It was when I was in Atlanta and his name is Dr. Tommy John. So if you're a baseball fan at all, his dad was the pitcher who got Tommy John surgery. So, I mean, they didn't call it Tommy John surgery when he got it because, he was the first person to. So he actually pitched 13 years in the big leagues and then got the surgery, missed that year, and then started 1 year and 1 day after getting the surgery and pitched another 13 years in the big leagues without missing a start. So that's pretty remarkable. And everything that his doctors were telling him then, which is what I think every doctor should tell everybody now, was to listen to his body, right? Because there was no recovery protocol for that. There wasn't anything set in stone. And it was just, okay, you might come back from this. You might never throw again, but you're not going to throw again if you don't get this. So he got the surgery and made a recovery, but it was all based off of his innate desire to get back out there and, just getting in tune and listening to what his body was saying. And that's, I feel like without getting a surgery, I think I had a similar experience, right? Like I felt more connected to myself and able to just go out and feel good every single day. And then I started to say, okay, I'm going to start training really hard and see if I can get everything in my low back strong again and get everything in my body strong again. And then I got to a point where I was like, if I had been this good of an athlete when I was in college, I'd be in a much different place right now. But I was 25 years old running a baseball facility, not playing a sport.
So what did that rehab process look like?
So I'd get adjusted and then I'd go train like hard right after. So like when I was at my clearest point, and it was a lot of, now this is a longer conversation, but if we go like a pyramid shape, right? The bottom part here, so this is the long-term athletic development pyramid. If we go pyramid here, this bottom part should be your foundation. So like all the movements that make up every other movement on top of it. So it'd be like bending over, twisting, squatting, balance on one leg, push, pull, hanging, all of that. All of that makes up the bottom part here. And then everything a little bit above that is functional movements. So like combinations of the foundational movements. So, like landing when you jump, being able to cut, change direction, like a push, different things like that in a game. And then the very top part is skill. So actual like performance of what you're doing. So basically what I realized was happening with the athletic sports industry, the youth sports industry, was that rather than having a shape like this, we were getting like an upside down, like inverted pyramid. So we had all these specialists spent all this time up here, with like 10-year-old kids working on this like really high level stuff that they don't have the foundation for at the bottom here. And I realized that I was guilty of it, and probably the entire $15 billion youth sports industry is guilty of putting profit of sport over making sure that this bottom part down here, which is like really the only job a kid has up until they're 10 years old, which should just be to like move and explore all that I wasn't following it myself as an adult. So I went back to really training, like exhaustingly training the basics. So like one leg balance, hanging, cross crawl patterning, like the most simple stuff to the fundamentals, because when all the fundamentals are better, everything up top just naturally gets better because it has a bigger foundation upon which to work.
And working on those fundamentals at the bottom of the pyramid will greatly enhance the top of the pyramid because the skills are already there.
Yeah. And I felt like this was the pyramid before getting chiropractic care. All of a sudden the pyramid was like, the base was just like getting wider. So fast forward, long story long, I got an offer to go play ball in Europe when I was 25. So I played a season over there. And then that winter I ended up getting an offer to go play in Australia. And then I got an offer to go back to Europe again the next summer, and then back to Australia to a different town the next winter. So I ended up playing 4 seasons in a row over 2 years without an injury, without like no thought in my mind of anything wrong that could have happened, just going out there and just performance at like the highest level I had ever been able to perform at, plus having fun and having the perspective of being a little bit older and just being able to go travel the world too.
What did you want to get out of that? Was there hopes of keeping the big dream alive, or was it just to completely just be a kid again, have fun with the game, and just take it as far as you can?
It was a 6-month vacation that turned into a 24-month vacation. So before the first one, it was like, I'm going to wake up and be 50 years old. I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor before going over for that first season. And that was like kind of the two selves within me. Like one of me wanted to start at Life West that fall in 2014. And then one of me was like, well, I'm going to be 50 and wake up one day and be like, why the hell didn't I go to Europe that one time to all my expenses paid, like getting paid to play ball over there. Even if it was like, I was in Vienna, Austria. So that winter I went to Canberra, Australia, which is the capital. Fun fact. I thought it was Sydney until I went over there. Yeah. And then I was in a smaller town in the Czech Republic the next summer, which was awesome. And actually, I did a podcast with them a few weeks ago, a couple of my old teammates who I hadn't seen for like 5 years. And I guess everybody's just doing Zoom calls right now. So that was nice. And then I was in Adelaide, South Australia took 6 months after that to live back with my parents and work back in Boston, and then started school that fall. So
that's amazing. And I love hearing stories about that because so many people think it's too late. And you're probably the same age as me, still very, very young, still getting started. And yeah, I'm 30 years old. In my mind, I feel like I'm just getting started here. And there's people that really don't like the profession that they're in. They're like 25, 30, 35 years old. And they're like, and I'm just going to stick with this because it's too late for me. and I can never do that. Dude, I think I had a 50-year-old in my graduating class, and he was revved up. He was ready to go. I was like, you're awesome. Like, that's exactly what you want to see out of life.
We've had a lot of people, second, third, fourth, maybe 10th careers that are at school that went through the program. And, you know, that sometimes they get confused for professors, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like we have a few professors that I'm older than at school, and it's amazing. And you want to show up every day with kind of that like beginner mindset, like being in awe of certain things and constantly learning. Like you were saying, like you feel like you're just getting going. And I feel like that too. And I feel like the biggest challenge right now is balancing that with also realizing that I know a lot more than I think I know, and blending that, like the beginner, like observing everything and being like, whoa, this is awesome. And like actually putting the big boy pants on a couple minutes later and being like, hold on, like I gotta come back and show up for this.
Absolutely. So who do you want to see in practice now that you've graduated? Do you want to focus on athletes, or do you want to focus just on everybody? What do you want to get out of practice currently?
So I know that you had a concussion. That's what led you to chiropractic. So I had a patient at the end of Life West who I actually messaged you about that. This is why we got connected. So he was a rugby player at the school, and I think he had his third concussion, and it was 6 days after. And I was in clinic at the time, and I had another patient cancel on me, and I'm in there and I'm just like, damn it. Like now what am I? So it was a regular patient who just had to cancel a visit, and the clinic was like at school where you're just in there and you're just like this, like purgatory. So I'm in there and this patient cancels. So I had a friend from school, from the fraternity, who came in with this rugby player, and he's like, he needs an intern right now. Like he got a concussion the other day, and his intern can't do anything for him. So I was like, okay, let me text somebody and I'll find somebody that is willing to take him. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, why would I find somebody else? Because I was a senior intern, like about to be out of there. So why would I take another student on? And you know what? I was just like, that's such a soft mentality. Like I had to catch myself right there. So I made it happen and pulled some strings, and we got him x-rays like same day, but I was doing knee, chest, upper cervical on everybody through school. And yeah, we got him, I think it was a Friday. So we got him x-rays, we did all the tests, and it was so humbling seeing somebody like that quickly after a concussion, and just like some of the normal tests that you would do, like that you have to put people through, like the eyes closed stuff and the balance, like Romberg's and all that. And I mean, he was like, dude, I'm going to puke if my eyes are closed. I'm just like, and we're doing all the eye stuff. And he's like, nope, like headache, double bit. I'm like, okay, I got to show up. So couldn't do anything till Monday because that was the next time everything opened, and I caught him end of the day Friday, but got him in Monday, adjusted him. And he called me up that night and he was like, dude, like I want to go lift right now. I was like, I know you're from Jersey and like, that's your nature. I was like, just don't go do that right now. But maybe that was the second adjustment, but it was the first person where I was just like, I'd taken care of everybody else, and it was like, that part's awesome. But this was the first person that was like, all right, this is 100% everything that I want to be doing. So I've heard people talk about like the 3 Ps. So pain prevention, performance, for what people will go see a chiropractor for. And you don't want to be like just a pain doc, like somebody who's just there because they're like last ditch. But I think that being able to kind of speak the same language as athletes and understand that, and be able to, I think, grow the profession through concussion. I think a lot of people have had awesome experiences as a patient. I'm sure you did too. And that was what led them to being chiropractors. Like my girlfriend is a chiro kid. Her dad's been practicing for 25 years. Like she knew what she wanted to do when she was 4, like adjusting Elmo on a drop table, like dolls and stuff. And I'm just like, okay, that's awesome. But then there's like the other part where people don't know what it is that we do, and to recover from something like a concussion, and it's something that would literally be like the fork in your life, or like the rest of your life you're living with just managing stuff and putting band-aids on a sinking ship, that is what I want to change the game with. And I'll send you over the poster that I made, but it's what we're using in our office right now, along with the Sway app. I don't know if you know Sway. You'd be really into it. It uses the motion sensor in your phone to measure reaction time and balance test. And so you do a balance test and measures reaction time, because those are 2 of the big things that are going to be thrown off when you have a concussion, because brain's going to be going at a different speed, mismatched from the body. So it's going to throw off balance, especially with the eyes closed. And then eyes sending impulses to the brain and then reacting is going to be really slowed down as well. So it gets a baseline test for everybody. It'd be like an impact test or a SCAT-5 or any of those concussion protocols, but basically says, okay, this is what your score's at. If you do have a head trauma, retest, say you test down here, you have to be able to test back at this level before you're cleared to go back out and play. And what's really cool is we can run anybody at our office through that and a valid, objective baseline score in 15 minutes. But if we go out and do that with an entire football team before a season, you can have every single person pull out their smartphone, download the app, you give them a code. You can do that same test that would take 15 minutes in your office, and now it takes still 15 minutes, but with 50 guys, and every single person's doing it. They understand what you're doing, and they understand, okay, if something does happen, like, this is the guy we go to. Or, like, why don't we just go to this guy in the first place, because he's a good dude, and what he's doing is going to not only improve my performance, but could be something that the whole family benefits from. And the big thing I want to change is how concussions are handled, because I hear stories of people like you that have obviously come full circle from being hopeless, like not being able to continue sport or just live a normal life, and then just completely change and be somebody that can, influence people like you can.
Well, so that's the thing about, we definitely need more people working with concussions, because you get a concussion and then after that, everything is very scary to you, because you Google how to cure post-concussion syndrome or how to get better from post-concussion syndrome. And then the first 10 things right away are scary. It's like, there is no cure. You're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. And then that's just enough to just crush somebody's mental state to begin with. And then we're trained to go to the neurologists and just the Western medicine route. And most likely, there's nothing that's going to show up on your MRI, CAT scan, blood work. And unfortunately, I was told by a number of doctors I was either going to have to live with it for the rest of my life, which is devastating when you're 21 years old and you're just starting out in life and you just, all your hopes and dreams just get shut down. Or some people even think that you're making it up, because it's not a physical injury. It's like you're in a mental prison and nobody can see your injury. So you look healthy, but you're just dying on the inside. So that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, was to spread the awareness that post-concussion syndrome, you can 100% get your life back. You just need to find the right practitioner, upper cervical, or somebody like yourself, and you will get your life back. And there are so many people searching for a cure for this. It's unbelievable. And it's sad.
That's the worst part. So going back to what you were saying, like, everybody plays Google Doctor, right? Like, something happens and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I recover from this? And it was for our senior spinal disorders class, I think it was called. And we had to write, I think it was the only paper we had to write in the time in chiropractic college. There'd be a lot of ugly papers coming out of that. But so we had a lecture the week before. He's the NUCA president, Jeff Schulten. He was the one teaching the class. He's awesome. He flew down from Calgary 5 times in the quarter. He flew in Tuesday night, taught the lecture Wednesday morning from like 7:30 to lunchtime, and then flew out at like 2 p.m. on the same day. He's insane. His lectures, even if you like knew all the anatomy, knew everything, you'd still leave and just be like, I missed a solid hour of that. Anyway, for that class, an assignment the week before, or a presentation that was on our online thing, all about concussion. And it was awesome information, stuff that I hadn't really heard before. And we had to write a term paper. So I just wrote it on that and kind of kept going from what I was listening to the week before. And the same thing happened. I went on Google and I typed in, how to heal from a concussion. And I clicked all 10 results on that page, did Control F to try to find anything that said, I think I looked chiropractic. I think I just wrote like Chiro P because I knew it was going to cut off chiropractor, and nothing on the first 10 pages. So I put in another search. I think it was like how to heal naturally from a concussion. Nothing. Everything, all it was talking about was, okay, go to a doctor, do some stretches, rest, Advil, and then for like the mental health stuff, like depression and all that, like just medicate. And I'm just like, God, like this is the standard of care? Like, you got to be kidding me. So you go to the hospital or anything like that, like ER, like they're looking for like gross pathology or like fracture, or they're not looking for millimeter misalignment. They're not looking for like, they definitely have no idea what a Blair protracto view is to see like an overlap or an underlap that's 1/4 of a millimeter that can literally change everything in a person's life. So yeah, it's amazing what kind of stopping the momentum on that is the mission right now, and being able to turn it the other way.
You just touched on something interesting too, the overlap and underlap, the x-rays, and a lot of the Western medical doctors, which I don't blame them for. they say, whatever you do, don't go to a chiropractor. And I think their understanding is the real rotary break, twist, crack your neck, all that, which I get. I don't want that done to me. And I'm a huge fan of all chiropractic. And I know some people have gotten better from rotary breaks. But if you're trying to fix a specific concussion, brain injury, you need to be as precise and exact as possible. They don't know about upper cervical. So that's what I was being told. Whatever you do, don't see a chiropractor. And I stayed away for 3 years. And then I got to the point where I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm going. Because, like, what else do I have to lose? And that's what set me on the journey of going to chiropractic school. But there's over 200 chiropractic techniques. There's one that's going to work for everybody. But if you have some type of neurological disorder, you definitely want to look into upper cervical chiropractic for sure.
I think we have a few patients at our office too that if it is really complex, they'll go to Noah Kaplan, who's a Blair doc he's around here. And then there's also Tom or Steve Forrest, Dr. Forrest.
Tom. Yeah, I don't know where Steve's at, but
they're both out here.
Dr. Tom Forrest is like the godfather of the Blair technique. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like restaurants, right? Like some people like Italian food, some people like Mexican. Like you got to figure out what technique kind of jives with you and also the chiropractor that jives with you. So, but then there are like, you got to call on the big guns for some of the stuff, like a 21-year-old who's had a concussion, who's been told that there's nothing else that you can do for him. So I've had ideas that we'll take this offline and kind of continue the dialogue, but there needs to be something to get this to more people, what we're doing, like people will travel for it too.
They'll travel all the way around the world. There will be somebody that will watch a YouTube video and they're in Singapore and they're like, what do I do? And I'm like, shit, you need to get to an upper cervical chiropractor. How do I do that? There's nobody in my country. It's like, man. And all the borders are closed. Like, I wish there was something like everyone's like, well, just teach me how to do it to myself. And I was like, listen, I can't adjust my atlas by myself. Like, I can't do it. If I adjusted my atlas one time, when I a year into practice, the woman I worked for retired and moved down to Florida. So I was just by myself. And I was like, you know what? I was getting headaches and everything. So I adjusted my atlas. Not a good move. I got dizzy. I was like really dizzy for like 3 or 4 days. I'm never doing that again.
How do you even do that? No, we don't want to give anybody ideas.
Yeah. Not a good idea.
There's an urban legend at Life West that somebody said that an activator, he was like, oh, this is bullshit. This thing doesn't work. And he clicked it and he had permanent Bell's palsy after on one side of his face, just like immediately drooped. And he just, he really, I guess he learned that activators do something, I guess, but.
Yes, they do something for sure. Same thing with, I've heard like stories with the SOT blocks where somebody thought it didn't work. And then an SOT, I wasn't there, but there was an SOT seminar and there was a guy just like heckling the professor. And he's like, those things don't work, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, all right, come on up. And he's like, I'm going to block you the wrong way. You tell me if it works or not. And so the kid, like, he couldn't like walk after that. He was in so much pain. And it's like, so they do something. They do work.
We'll cut that part out of the podcast. Chiropractic's totally safe. Everything about it is super, super safe.
Yeah. It goes back to what you were talking about before. You got to really find somebody a doctor that believes that can get you better and that you feel comfortable with. Mm-hmm. There's some doctors, like I'll send somebody to a doctor and that has like a bunch of neurological disorders and they'll be like, right away, they're like, he couldn't help me, but he's going to try. And it's like, that's not the first thing you want to be telling your patient. That's not a good move.
You have to, so much of being able to heal is being able to overcome that concept in your head that you can't heal, right? You need somebody that is confident in what they're doing and that you feel their confidence, right? There's such a big difference between just the mechanic, right? Somebody who's just giving the adjustment versus somebody who's giving the adjustment with something extra and expecting miracles. And everything in their office is, whether it's just on a subconscious level, putting that positive intention, in your life. So
absolutely. I mean, there's probably about, 150 Blair upper cervical doctors in the country. We're all doing the same adjustment. Some get the results, some don't. And I realize that the doctors that are getting the results, they have the passion and the belief that they can get their patient better, they get the most phenomenal results. And because their adjustment's so much better than the other person, I don't think so. It's just the clear intention that, like Dr. Drew Hall, I remember before my first adjustment, he's like, lay on the table, I'm going to save your life today, or we're going to save your life today. And I was like, oh shit. Wow. Okay. I mean, right away, that puts something in your head. You're like, oh, wow. Okay. This might work. So it goes a long way, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think some of the concept stuff that I was just talking about, like, I don't know why this just popped into my head, but, I've recently taken up golf because it's the only thing that you can still do right now athletically. It's like the only thing that's open. And I have to break the concept in my head that I have a baseball swing. You were a hockey guy, right? So kind of the same plane, like at least swinging down through it. But the baseball golf swing is everybody slices the hell out of it. Like, can hit it 300 yards, but it goes like straight at you. So I've had to break that in my head and consciously allow myself to know that I have the athleticism in my body and that it's there and that I can do it. But it's breaking that idea that no, like I'm never going to be good at golf, right? Like if somebody comes in and they say, no, well, like I'm always going to have migraines and like, this is how it is. Like there's extra work that's got to be done on your side, and you to be able to say, no, like I see this all the time. We see it, like, you're going to be fine. You're going to heal. You're going to get well. Imagine if Drew Hall hadn't said that to you when you're on the table. Like if he was just like, all right, like hopefully this works, and then bam, like goes.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too. I didn't heal overnight. So I had to constantly be reminded, like 4 months into care, like, I'm kind of like at a plateau right now. Is this ever going to get better? And Drew went through the same exact thing as me. He's like, you're good. Just, you got to give it some time. Your body didn't get like this overnight. It's going to take some months. And he was brutally honest with me. Like, I was like, how long did it take you to like make a full recovery? He's like, to be honest with you, probably about 1.5 years where I was 100% symptom free. And I remember looking at him, I was like, damn, I don't have that much time. And it's not like it was like I was symptomatic for 1.5 years and then somebody turned the light bulb switch on and I was better. Every couple weeks, it would get better and better and better. But it's a healing process. It can be uncomfortable. And you do need that little reinforcement where, look, this is going to be okay. You just got to hang in there.
Right. Well, it's the dimmer switch, right? It's not just bam, on. So, and the other part of that too is that I heard this about retracing, right? Like how it's a process, but can't expect to walk 10 miles into the woods and get out in one. You've got to, sometimes you're going to go backwards through some of it. And it's not just like, hey, like my car's here, like I'm here, like bam, it's, you're going to.
Dude, I had a trigeminal neuralgia patient last week. I adjusted her. I rested her in the back for 10 minutes. She comes back and she just looks devastated. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I don't feel any different. I'm like, it's been 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Like, she's like, it's like, your body's probably been like this for 30 years. Go home, give it a couple hours, see how you feel the next day. But like, she was so let down. And I was like, listen, it's going to be all right. Just, you're giving me 10 minutes here. Come on. I get where she's coming from. She's been in the most amount of pain she's ever been in for 3 years, but you got to give the healing process some time there for sure.
Yeah, we were in India in January for a service trip, which we need another whole episode for that one, but you would have loved it, man. So it was obviously a 24-hour flight to get there. So we spent 4 days before and then 3 days after just seeing India, because I was like, maybe I'll never go back there. But it was a 4-day service trip. No, 3 days. But there were people that got on the table that it was comical. Like, you'd adjust them and then right away they'd be like, I feel much better. Like, but there's definitely that part of the healing process that can take place where like the person's faith in what's about to happen is so great. They trust so much in what's about to happen. And it's the first person that hasn't gone down the medical route with them to say, okay, you need this, this, or this, and this is going to help you manage it. But I don't know what the person in the other room was prepping them with the health talk, but like they came to me and they were like, my knee hurts. I'm like, cool, I'm going to do this. And that helps balance your legs and your knee's going to feel really good. And he'd be like, okay, bam, my knees feel great. I'm like, you haven't even gotten up, but awesome. Like,
they're just incredibly grateful too, probably.
She's a 60-year-old lady who had fallen out of a coconut tree 10 years before. She was like, she would like pick coconut. She's badass, but she like fell out, landed right on her head. And I'm like, she's had like on this whole side of her head, like numbness in the hand, like partially going deaf, like all this weird neuro stuff. And you have a line out the door. We saw 15,000 people in 3 days. And it's just like, okay, I got 2 minutes to make a call here. So, and you could give like a little ticket to someone to say, hey, cut the line tomorrow. I'm going to check you again, or like come back in 3 hours. And yeah, that was one where I knee chested her and she was like, and then I saw her again the next day and I don't know, we're like that's the part of a service trip that you're like, I don't know where they are now. Like, there's no way to follow up. Like, I no idea what her name was. Amazing lady. But I saw her the next day and she's like, I'm feeling perfect for the first time in 10 years. And I'm like, I am a student and I'm going to be so much better in 6 months and 10 years. And you feel like you don't know what you're doing, but there's that little monkey brain in your head. I do have to go. I'm going to leave you on a thought. It kind of ties in with that. This is a book I've been reading, Inner Game of Tennis. I'm not a tennis player at all, but it talks about how in our heads we have, so if we're talking like top of the pyramid, like the actual performance part that I was talking about earlier, if we're talking, it's the subtitle's The Classic Guide to the Mental Side of Peak Performance. So it talks about how in all of us, there's the inner game that we're playing with ourselves, and then there's the outer game that you're playing. So like you put on the hockey skates, you're playing the outer game against the other team, but in your head, you're playing the inner game with yourself. And then within yourself, we have self 1 and self 2. Self 1 is our conscious brain that'll like talk to us and give us instructions and can even be critical, be like, damn it, Kevin, like, you know, you hit another ball in the trees. Like, come on, keep the club face closed or whatever it is. And then self 2 is the unconscious part of our brain, the part that can just go out there and flow and learns through like the natural process of feeling. And you put an image in self 2's head and then it just can recreate that image. So the biggest thing I took away from this book that I'm about to finish tomorrow, so I probably should wait till I finish the next chapter, but it says performance is potential minus interference. And that is super important on our end, right? Like believing that you can just turn off, like you can stop interfering with your own process and get out of your own way and just let it flow and let it flow out of your hands and just trust that you got it and not be like thinking, oh, what's my line? Like, what am I doing? Just go like, you got it, man. And then the other part with potential, like I think with what we're doing, every single person has 100% potential within their own body to live the best version of their own life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And we have to help remove that interference and facilitate that. So cool to read that in a book about the mental side of tennis. So you can tie everything back.
Absolutely. And Dr. Alex, before you go, where can people find you on social media, online, if they want to just take a look at some of the stuff you're doing?
Sure. Alexander the Chiro on Instagram. It's like Alexander the Great, but a little bit different. I think I might have to change that soon because I might be able to shorten up some of the characters. But yeah, for now, that's good. I feel like you should just lead with your best. You don't want to send somebody like your LinkedIn or some other. So I've been pretty active on there, but my girlfriend and 2 of her sisters were in town this weekend, and it reminds me that I'm not that active on Instagram compared to them. I mean, we had an awesome time, and it was cool to not have to take pictures and just know that we were camping in Big Sur, and we were up above the clouds every morning and after sunset. So we had some awesome pictures. It was cool to have other people do the dirty work for me and not have to, yeah. So Alexander the Chiro on Instagram. I've got some other things that I'm working on, which is why waking up at 5 a.m. is essential. So you can, knock a half hour of that off every day and be able to get some momentum before you get to work.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I would love to have you back on anytime, and I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, subscribe, give us 5 stars, and leave a review. It really helps boost the podcast and spread the good word. My chiropractic practice is located in West Orange, New Jersey at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. You can also find us on Facebook at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. All of my information is on my website at drkevinpecca.com, drkevinpecca.com. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kevin Pecca for podcast episodes, patient testimonials, and educational videos. I have daily affirmations and inspirational quotes on Instagram at Easel Affirmations, EASEL Affirmations. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at drkevinpecca@gmail.com, drkevinpecca@gmail.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Cheers.